Okay, here yesterday the system which I was using, that was the different system. So today system is our old system. So as yesterday the system was under maintenance. Because of that reason we could not work on that. So here in this system I'm just creating a YMAT01 change request type, because based on that I will create the workflow steps and rule-based workflow. So first I have created the change request type, and then going down, rule-based workflow, and define change request steps. So here YMAT01, first 00, this is processing. Then let's say 91 is activation. Then 92 is revision. Then 93 is verifier. 94 is approver. Then 95 is rollback. Then what else? Nothing is there. Then 99 complete. So far these are all. If any step is required, that we will take accordingly. Okay. So now go to configure rule-based workflow. So here the type of change request is YMAT01. YMAT01. Here I'm saving it in local object, but you have to save it in an appropriate task because it is a transportable object. Now go to decision table. So it seems no data is there, so I'm going to create a new record. So I need CR previous step, previous action, change request priority not required, reason not required, rejection reason not required, parent step is required but for the parallel workflow, not for the single workflow. So here first we will talk about the single workflow, then we will go to the parallel workflow. Condition alias required because it will talk about the step number. Then new change request step, of course it is required, and then new CR status. Hours of completion not required. So these are all activities are required. Save it once. Okay. Then start building. So CR previous step. So first, when requester submit, it goes to the verifier. Okay. So now the first step is whenever the submission happen, the workflow start. So first step is initial, that means like processing. Sorry for the spelling mistake. So processing, previous action, just submission happened, so it will directly go to the new step, that is verifier. So no further action will be recorded here. So this is the first step. So the new change request step number will be, that is nothing but requester to verifier. So verifier is nothing but 93. I will go by the logic, not by the number. Okay. You will say why it is not 90. I can take verifier as 90. Then it will be a sequential. No, it's not like that. It really does not depend your numbering. It depends on your logic, how you define the logic here. Okay. So whenever you submit, the data goes to the verifier. The change request goes to the verifier. And the status. Let's see whether I have some reasonable status for this. So no, I do not have any status for this. Let me quickly create the status. Go to change request and create the status. Y1 is to be validated in business process. Y2 is to be approved by approver in business process. Now come here. So here I can see, okay, so it takes little time to sync it. So 1 second, just save it once and new CR status, and then try to see to be validated by verifier in business process. So this is the suitable status for the same. Okay. Now next step. So when it reaches to the verifier, then verifier will have two process. One, either he will approve it or he will reject it. So next step will be the verifier. So the verifier means the direct input value. So it will be verifier. So verifier means 93. Okay. Now it will have two actions. First is approve and second is reject. So first I will start with approval. So first all the approval cases I will design. So action. So what is the numbering for approval? That is 03. So this is the numbering for approval. So if verifier approve, so this is the second number step, condition alias. So if verifier approve, then it will have what? If verifier approve, then it will go to the approver. Okay. So then the next step will be the approver. So what is the step number for approver? That is nothing but 94. So here what is the reasonable status for that? The reasonable status is, so here we will see what is the reasonable status for that. Y2, to be approved by approver in business process. Okay. Now next step. So verifier approve. So first what I will do for understanding purpose, because verifier has two steps. One is approve and reject. So first I will complete all the approval cases. Also approver will have approve and reject. So I will complete first all approver cases, then I will come to the rejection. You can do one thing, you can now create for rejection and then go for approver approval. But it is I'm doing just to understand that approver will come first and then rejection will come. So it is easy to do this logic building. So now next is verifier approve. So it goes to the approver. Now approver. So now approver. Approver approves. So whenever approver approves, approver means 94. Okay. Now approver previous action. Approver previous action will be approve. That is nothing but 03. Okay. And condition alias I'm taking as step number 3. Okay. So if approver approve, then what will happen? If approver approve, then it will go for activation. Then it will go for activation. Okay. So activation. So what is the activation for that? Activation is nothing but 91. Okay. And the status is so I don't think so there will be some reasonable status. So I will create the own status. So let's say Y3 is nothing but activation of business process. Business process. Okay. So let me call this, save it. Each and every step you will do, try to save the step. Otherwise you will forget what exactly you have done. Or what will happen if in case this window will goes away, so all the changes will be gone. So here Y3, activation of business process. Fine. So that means first verifier approve, then it goes to the approver. Then the approver approve, it goes for activation. Fine. So all my with respect to the verifier and approver, all the approval cases now done. Now I will start the rejection cases. So for rejection case, what I will do? So first 93, that is verifier. So verifier has also the action that is nothing but the rejection. So verifier, then what is the previous action? Previous action is 04. You can also see from the F4 button. That is rejection. Rejection is 04. Okay. So whenever verifier reject, usually what is the standard scenario? So whenever I have requested for leave, but my manager rejected the leave, to whom it will come back? Definitely to me, not to anybody else. So the condition alias step number will be 4. 4. And here it will back to me. That means it will back to the requester. So the new change request step number will be revision. Revision means revise to the initiator. Okay. So whenever we requested for some leave or let's say some financial expenses, what happened? That manager check, and if it reject, then it is revised to the initiator. Okay, I do not have any sufficient reasonable status, so let me create the status for the same. Save it. So here up to Y3 I have added, let's say Y4, and revise to initiator. Revise to initiator. Okay. So now if I see this status, so here so here Y4 revise to initiator. So whenever verifier reject, it return back to the initiator. Okay. So the same situation for approver. So whenever approver reject, like approver is 94. So whenever approver reject, then also it will back to the initiator. So the condition alias step number will be 5. So here the new change request number will be also revision. Whether it reject by verifier or approval, it will back to the initiator. Like whether my manager reject or my senior manager reject, ultimately it back to me. That is the concept. So Y4. So I will maintain the same status for the activity. Okay. So let me quickly recap whatever we have designed so far. Okay. So 00 means whenever the change request submit, workflow start. This is the initial processing, and then it goes to the verifier. Then verifier has two options, whether he can approve it or reject it. So first, approval case. So if verifier approve, then it goes to the approver. If approver approve, then it goes for activation. Okay. Now, if verifier reject, then it goes back to the revision or goes back to the initiator. And if approver reject, then it revises to initiator, same situation like verifier. Now next is revision. So first I will talk about revision. So what happened, like the request rejected by my manager, it back to me. Then what are those options it will visible for me? One is, let's say I have requested for 10 days leave. So what my manager want to reduce some days, like not to take 10 days leave, instead of that take 5 days leave. So I have one option, that is change the value and resubmit again. So revise. So first revision can have two different activity. So revision. So in this step I have one kind of action, that is called resubmit. Okay. And the condition alias will be, see, in the initiator level, I can change the value and I can resubmit. What will happen if I resubmit? Again the same cycle will continue. It will go back, go to the verifier, then verifier approve, then go to approver, then approver approve, then it goes for activation. All those story will repeat again. So what will be my condition alias? Instead of creating the new condition alias, I will say it is the same step, which is step number 1. Because ultimately in step number 1, I'm doing the submission. So this is also submission. The only difference is here I'm submitting second time, not the first time. So what will happen? So if again submission will happen, then it will go to the verifier, the very first stage. Whatever we have in the very first stage, the same thing will repeat here. So let me see the first stage. See, 0 0 and verifier. This is the first stage. So it's same kind of activity. So initiator can change the value and resubmit one more time. So again the same cycle will continue. So instead of taking the another condition alias, if I define the same condition alias like step number 1, then system will understand, okay, the same level I have to execute. So here the status also will maintain the same, because ultimately it goes to the verifier level. So Y1. Okay. Now save it. Then next step. Then one more situation can be possible, that no, I really need 10 days leave, but my manager said no, it's not possible. So what I will do? So I have no other option. What I will do? I will withdraw my leave. Okay. So another option can be as an initiator to withdraw my leave. So here 92, the previous action will be withdraw. So withdraw is action number 8, I guess. Yes, action number 8. Okay. And the condition alias. So definitely withdraw is a new step. So I cannot say it is repeating for any previous step. No. So definitely it will be a new condition alias 6. Okay. And then the new change request type. So if withdraw, then what happened? So if I click on withdraw button, then whatever the data I have entered, so that data is still in the staging area level. So all the data will be rolled back. All the data will be rolled back from the staging area level, because this change request will have no more existence, because I don't want that data to be present, because I don't want that leave. So because of that reason, the action or the step which will execute, that is nothing but rollback. So in our case, rollback is 95. Rollback. Okay. So I need a suitable status for rollback. Let me go and create the status. Y5 and status is rollback. Rollback the process. Rollback the process. So here direct value input, roll back the process. Save it. Okay, then what next? So again, if I go to the table, this is the table. So here 00 is verifier approve, it goes to the approver approve, it goes for activation. So now I will go for activation. Okay, quickly check, verifier reject, then go back to the revision, approver reject, then go back to the revision. Then revision will have two different phases. One is resubmit, another one is withdraw. If it is resubmit, then it will have the same step number like step number 1. And if it is withdraw, then it will be rollback. Fine. So activation. Now I will deal with the activation. So let's say one very generic example about the activation. Like whenever we do the activation, like let's say I want to do a mobile recharge. Okay, it is a very good example to understand the activation. So whenever we try to activate one certain plan in our mobile, what happens? Sometimes the activation happens successfully and the plan successfully come to our mobile. That is one case. Another case is the activation failure. So what will happen? Again, I need to do the same thing from starting. I need to give the mobile number, then amount, then again we need to activate it. So this is nothing but the two different cases. One is activation successful, another one is activation not successful. So there are two different cases we have. So activation. So previous action will be, so the previous action will be so first is activation successful, 31, activation successful. Whenever your workflow is start become little lengthy, your system will get little slow because at the same time it has to process entire steps. So activation, then activation successful, then activation successful, then the step number, let's say I'm taking let's say I'm taking the step number, because if activation successful, what will happen? Let's say I'm taking step number 8. Okay, why I'm taking 8? Let me see. If activation successful, then the change request number will, the next step will be completed. The step number will be 99, which is indicating the completion. Okay. Okay, in the meantime, let me create the reasonable status for this. So up to Y5 has done. Let me create Y6. Not required. We have already one status available. That is, we have one status available, that is final check approved. So that is more than sufficient. Whichever the standard status can be possible to use, we will definitely use the standard status. Whichever the status we feel okay, it is required to add, those status we can add it. So the change request status is 05, which is final check approved. That means the step has been, the entire end-to-end workflow has been completed after the activation. So this is the one. If verifier approve, then goes to approver. If approver approve, then activation, then complete. So this is nothing but completion. If the activation happens successfully. But if the activation happen unsuccessfully, then what will happen? So again, another step for not successful. So again, activation 91, and if it is not successful, then what will happen? Then the previous action I have, that is 32 is the activation failed or not successful. Whether I can use 32, this one I can use, or the another way to represent this particular step is, let's say, what we say, if the activation is equals to 32, which is activation failed, then also it is fine. Another way, another trick, let me show you to define it. That is, let's say, is not equals to 31. That means what? 31 is activation successful. So this activation is not equals to 31. That means apart from successful, that means nothing but either it is, whatever it is not successful. I'm not saying it is activation failed, but whatever it is, whether it is activation failed or pending or wherever it is, but make sure it is not activation successful. So it is not equals to 31. Okay, let me change the condition alias number for activation 7. Okay, so if activation not successful, then what will happen? So again, back to the same example. So if my mobile recharge is not successful, again I have to do the same procedure from beginning. I have to enter the mobile number, I have to enter the amount, and then do the activity. So that means it will back to the initial stage. That means step number 1. So if the activation is not successful, then it will back to the first step, and the new change request number will be, what is the first step new change request number? That is verifier. Let me see. As I'm saying, it is a first step, so all my relative activities or all my relative details, like new change request is for step number 1, it is verifier. The CR status, it is nothing but Y1. So same detail will be carried here. So the new status will be Y1. So that means if the activation fail, then one second. Yes, okay, fine, correct. If the activation fail, then it back to the first step and it will be the verifier. So again the same cycle will continue. Again it will go to the verifier, then verifier approve, then approver, then approver approve, then all those story will repeat again. Okay. Now what left here? So last couple of steps what we have done. One is activation successful. So if activation successful, then condition alias number is 7 and it is completed. So the change request status will be final check approved. If the activation is not completed, then it back to the first stage. Then again the same story will repeat from beginning. Now, next step is what else is left? That is nothing but rollback. So we said when the revision is withdraw, when the initiator will withdraw, it will happen rollback. Rollback in our case, step number 95. So when rollback is happen, rollback is another activity. So when rollback is happen, what will do? When rollback is happen, after the rollback, then what is the condition alias step number? The condition alias step number will be, let's say, I'm saying same step number. You can take different step number, make it 8. That is not a problem. If there is any confusion. Why I'm taking the same step number? Because what is my ultimate result? After rollback all the data, what will happen? The process will complete it, right? So that's what I'm taking the same condition alias number, or you can take different number as well. And the final conclusion is the after this rollback, the activity will be completed. The entire process will be completed. But after the rollback, however this process will be completed, but in this case, the status will be little different. So previously the status was 05, which is final check approved. Here it will be 06, which is final check rejected, right? Because rollback means what? I'm withdrawing the request. I'm rejecting my change request forever. So that's what it is, final check rejected. So that's what, however the condition alias number I'm maintaining same, the conclusion step is same, which is nothing but complete, but the status vary. Whenever it is activation successful, then the change, the final check approved. Whenever the rollback completed, then it is final check rejected. No further action will happen. Rollback itself is one kind of action. It will roll back all the data. That's it. Activities or further actions will be involved here. Fine. So this is the entire end-to-end step based on one example for the single value decision table. Now I have just shown the example with requester, verifier and approver. You may have approver 1, approver 2, approver 3, finance, marketing, HR, whatever the step number you want. There can be n number of steps. So same way those steps will be carried on. So this is the end-to-end logic defined in the rule-based workflow, particularly for single value decision table. So in the single value decision table, what we said, that we will define the end-to-end process. So this is my end-to-end process respect to my requirement. So any question so far?
Aditya, one question here, when the activation fails, because activation is a system task, when the activation fails, is it the right way going back to the initiator again, or we can just roll back, because once the system is failed, then user cannot do much there, right?
No. What is happening? When the activation fail, it is not going back to the requester. My idea is, when the activation fail, it will go back to the verifier, not the requester. It will go back to the verifier, and verifier will again try to approve the request, then go to the approver, then try to approval one more time. So if the activation failed, it is not going back to the requester. Only when it is going back to the requester, when verifier or approver reject, then only it goes back to the requester.
So
Aditya, I have one question here. So once the activation is getting failed, so at that time there should be a manual because the first level of the requester, when he submits, then only the workflow will trigger to the verifier, right? Because activation get failed.
That's
It's
what
a system.
the logic I have written. My logic, I don't want to back to the again requester, and then I don't want to send it to the verifier again. Whatever you are saying now, again, let's say whenever the activation failed, it will back to the requester. Okay, no problem. You put it the step number 92 and change the condition alias. So it will back to the requester. But what my idea is, let's not back to the requester, because activation fail is not related to the data. Activation failed is related to the system error, kind of. Okay, so it is not mistake by the initiator who has done any wrong data entry or anything else. So the idea is not, let's not back to the requester, otherwise requester will get confused why it get back to me, whether my data is wrong or something else. So instead of that, I'm backing to the verifier, because activation failure is not related to the data problem. It is a problem with the system. Because of that reason, we are just back to the verifier. If you want, you can make it 92, it will back to the requester. Okay, whatever you want, you can change the number accordingly. So that way your workflow will continue.
Aditya, so now the question is, at what point of time the activation gets failed? Either the IDOC getting,
let's say the server gets stopped in between. When the execution is happening, the server gets stopped. Let's say some interruption came. Due to that reason, the execution stopped. Because of that reason, the activation failed. But activation fail is a very rare case. Very, very rare. Hardly in my lifetime I have seen, I think, couple of cases. But
okay,
majority cases, definitely server will not stop in such a way. Right?
Okay, so any IDOC failure is not the activation failure.
No.
Right?
IDOC is something else. Don't mix with the IDOC here.
Okay.
Still, my IDOC not executing. Let's not mix with workflow with IDOC.
Okay. We are still in the staging area. Okay.
Here, I'm not discussing anything which is related to IDOC. It is absolutely related to the workflow. Okay. Any question? Okay. So now, based on the single value decision table, we will create the non-user agent decision table. Okay, let's do it tomorrow, because non-user agent decision table will take another some time to discuss. So this is nothing but the single value decision table, and whenever you will do, try to save it. Once it is completed, try to save it. It will take little time if your workflow is little lengthy. So this is very like single. If it is single processing, then still I can say the workflow is pretty easy. When I will come to the parallel processing, you will see how much the workflow is complicated. Okay, so as I'm starting with a very simple scenario, so that's what I think it is look like. Okay, workflow is pretty easy, but try to understand the concept. You may have 2 step, you may have 4 step, you may have 5 step, you may have 10 steps, but you know how to define the steps, then it will be easy for you to define all the steps as it is required. So whenever you save it and you feel that, okay, my workflow is completed as far as the single value decision table, you need to activate it. So every single data has to be activated. So as we know, who's are from SAP background, they already aware about it, that whatever the activity we will do here, it has to be activated. So do you really want to activate this? Yes. So activate the data. Whenever you will activate it, what will happen? The data will ready to execute. If you will not activate it, just save it, then the data will not ready to execute. So even though you will see that your steps are in place, but still the workflow is not executing because it is not activated. Okay. So this is the single value decision table. So any question related to the single value decision table? Okay.
Aditya,
So yeah,
whatever the new CR status we have created, these are all means we have we have gone for the new entries and we created. So there should be a linkage.
which one? Which one?
The
Sorry,
new,
sorry. Which one?
the new CR status, which is Y1, Y2, all these we created, no?
CR
So
status. Okay.
so this all, there will be a linkage also, right? Afterwards, maybe in the non-user agent or the user agent, we will be using somewhere, right? This
Not
Y1,
not the CR status. Not the CR status. In non-user agent and user agent decision table, yesterday only I was talking about, the linkage will be condition alias.
okay,
Condition alias will work as a foreign key relationship in between these two tables,
okay,
not the status. Okay, so that's what the step number, condition alias is step number. So here, including background step and foreground step, all the steps are executing here in the single value decision table. Okay, now in non-user agent and user agent decision table, we will segregate the step number. We will segregate the step number based on their activity. So non-user agent decision table will only carry the background jobs and user agent decision table will only carry the foreground jobs. So accordingly we will segregate, and there will be some more new logic will enter, so that we will talk about.
okay. Aditya,
I have,
Yeah,
just
please.
to remind you that those in last to last classes we discussed some of the points where in the question hour session, so that you will be taking after this workflow.
You mean
But
that CVA and all?
yeah, and the vendor subrange.
Vendor subrange I did not
Aditya, I have
get
a question.
uh, uh, and I really did not get time to talk about. Okay, CBA I will talk today. Yeah. Yeah, tell me,
Aditya, I have a
please.
question. In between verifier or approver, I want to hold this here. Is it possible?
Yes, it is possible. You can do it programmatically. Add the line like wet 5 seconds or wet 10 seconds. In the where you will write the line, that I will come to. Exactly, you need to write the line in the business rule body. That is nothing but, if you really want to stop something in between at the level, then what you will do, come to the rule body. There is a rule body called AC18. The body name is USMD underscore rule service. Click on display. So here you will have two different body, which I will talk about in validation and derivation chapter, which is next chapter only. So let's say under the single validation or derivation, here you need to create one implementation. So this body execute along with the workflow process. Okay, so what we will do in this particular, let's say this is one implementation. In this implementation, what you need to do, you need to provide the step number. You need to call the step number. So when, let's say workflow step number is, let's say workflow step number is 3, that means activation. Okay, then wait 5 seconds or wait 10 seconds. That way you can able to do. Or this is one way to provide this. So you go to the implementation class. In this class, let's say you have a method called check entity. In this check entity, you can call that particular workflow process. That is one way. Another way to deal with that is, let's say activation is a background activity. So definitely this step will be captured in the non-user agent decision table. Okay. In non-user agent decision table, we will have a space that I will talk about tomorrow, that is service name. The service name is related to the service body. The one I shown you, this is for rule body. The one I'm talking about, this is service body. And one of the service body is email notification. Okay, let me show you the email notification body. So here, go to the enhancement spot. SMT processor. Here, there is a body definition called USMD SSW system method caller. This is for email notification. Email notification is another major activity in MDG, which we are going to cover up in next chapter, basically in validation and derivation chapter. Okay. Now, in this implementation, what we will do, so here MDG system caller. In this method, in this particular body or in this particular class, what we are doing, we are basically call the email notifications. Just a minute. Let me go to one appropriate, say this one. Implementing class and method. See, in this particular method, we are basically calling the email. So basically, we are calling the email part, that how the email will trigger in the workflow process, and then it will go to the requester. In this particular method, for 5 seconds. So that will, what will happen, this body is executing parallelly with the workflow. So when this workflow is executing, this body also triggering at the same time. And when it is come to this condition alias number 3, you will say wait 5 seconds. So it will wait for 5 seconds and execute the activation. So this is the 2 approach, but the second approach is the best approach. Go for a service body, particularly the call method, which is for email notification. Try to call the workflow step number, which step number where you want to make a pause, or where you want to make a wait for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and then call this waiting command. Okay, so this way we can wait some activity for accordingly. Is this clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aditya, here
Yeah.
the question was like, in all of the steps after step 1 happens, then step 2 to take 5 seconds or 10 seconds, right?
Yeah, any step, not activation or no, any number of step wherever you are. If you want to call any particular activity to be with some certain interval, then you have to write the exclusive code in the respective class.
But what is the business value out of this? Because
Definitely it has a business value. Let's say your customer doesn't want to activate immediately. Will wait some time, particularly for email notification. Email notification is the best example. Like once the entire activity will be executed, then your customer want, let's say after 5 minutes the email will trigger, not immediately. Because what happened, let me tell you, the data will at the same time, the data will move from staging to the active area. So you need to give some time to go the data from staging to active. So immediately if that email will trigger, some cases what observed, that is the data is not available in the email page. Let's say in the email page I have material number, manufacturing part number, manufacturer number. Okay, so those numbers are not is coming as blank. Why it is blank? It is there in the change request. Later point of time when we go to for analysis, when we go to Mara table, it is also there in the Mara table. Why it is not there in the email? When we perform the analysis, what we captured in the analysis, that is when the data movement happened from staging to active, that time as email triggered before the data come to active area. That's what it could not hold that particular value. That's what the ideal way is. Wait for 10 seconds or 15 seconds and then trigger the mail. What will happen? In the meantime, your data will properly come to the active area. It will sit to the Mara table in place within 15 seconds and then trigger the mail. So all the data will be in place. So this is one of the very important requirement in project for waiting some activity for time being. It has really definitely one major role in the project. Okay.
I have other query.
Yeah, please.
Right. So suppose verifier has two actions, approve or reject, and in between you want to hold the CR.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to give any decision for certain
Okay.
any. So is it possible?
Yes.
Like we are
Like
parking, we are holding invoice like.
you're holding the invoices, correct.
Yes.
So in that case, what we will do, there is another service body called rule context preparation. Okay. So in the rule context preparation, what we will do, we will hold basically in the user agent decision table. What you will do, this is the area where user interactions are happening. Right now we are talking about, we are holding the user interaction for the time being. Okay, we want to hold the the purchase order detail to be approved by the another level. There is a one second. Here it is. There is another service called dynamic agent selection service. Okay, dynamic agent selection service. It is like email notification. It is another type of services. What you will do with this service, you can decide what my when it is going to the approver and verifier level, which approver and which verifier it will go. Not only that, also we can do exactly what you said. Like, okay, it will go to the verifier RAM, but when it will reach to the verifier RAM, it will hold for 1 day, and then it will available for RAM to approve it. Before that, it will come as a grayed out option. This activity, to do this activity, what you need to do, you need to call this particular body. That is nothing but dynamic agent selection body. Expand that, go to the implementation. So dynamic agent selection. So in the dynamic agent selection, this is the appropriate method, where basically what is the significance of this method? The significance of the method is it is sending the right person to whom you want to send. Okay, that decision it will take. Point number one. Point number two is not only send to that person, also once it will reach for like for 1 hour, for 1 day, the change request will not be ready to take any action. It will only ready to take the action after 1 hour or 1 day or 5 hours, whatever the hours you will set. Okay, then only that particular person called Ram or Rahul, whoever it is, X, Y, Z, whoever the person is, he can able to approve it. Okay, so this is the particular method for that or class for that. If I really want to do at this level, at the level of verifier, approver and all. Is this clear? I don't think so. It will be clear to everyone because we have a separate chapter for that, verification and derivation. In that chapter, we will talk about all those body, respect to the workflow, which body is doing what. Then you will come to know, then once you will understand, once you will have this understanding that, okay, this body is doing this activity for workflow. Now my customer is asking this particular activity, where I can execute it. So it will be easy to take that decision for you. But as you don't know that which body is executing for what purpose, so it is difficult for you to take the decision, what to do, which body to implement. Okay. Any question? Any question, please? So tomorrow, let me write it here, otherwise tomorrow we will forget. So tomorrow I will start with this CBA first, and then we'll continue the rest of the tables to be designed. So tomorrow we will start first CBA, and then we will continue to design.
Thanks, Aditya.
Yeah. Okay. So tomorrow same time we will meet and we'll see. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.